Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So I wanted to take a break from the grind today. Marshall's going to be coming back home tomorrow if all goes well, and I'll give you an update on that then. I want to again thank all the people who made purchases through the Canadian Preparedness store with that coupon code Marshall, and also the numerous donations through GoFundMe and PayPal. I'm just blown away by the generosity, and I'm going to be paying you guys back somehow with some really awesome content this year. So thanks a lot for that. So I want to do a bit of a poll here. I did a poll yesterday. I still don't know how you access this other than via mobile, but basically it allows you to ask questions and you guys provide responses, and it's fun. So I asked the question, how far would you go to feed yourself in SHTF? Comment if you want or remain anonymous and just take the poll. These were the results. I wouldn't steal or harm from anyone ever, 13%. I would steal but avoid inflicting any casualties, 41%. I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt, 22%. I would eat my pets, 7%. I would eat my neighbor or my ex, and we will survive at any cost. Now, when 41% of people say I would steal but avoid inflicting any casualties, that's not at all consistent with the research that demonstrates that even in the best of times, people will torture other people if they don't have to take responsibility for it. That's evidence in the Stanley Milgram experiments. And so up to 90% of people in certain conditions would agree to shock someone almost to death if the experimenter or an authority figure took the responsibility. So there was an experiment by which, most people know the experiment, just to quickly go over it again, the experimenters telling the participant, hey, shock this person in another room. It's not a real person, but they have recordings of somebody screaming, and the screams get increasingly more intense, and the participant is increasingly told, look, we must go ahead with the experiment. You must continue to shock this person. Don't worry, we'll take responsibility. 90% of people, depending on the salience to the supposed person who is screaming, will actually pretty much fry the person dead if they don't have to take responsibility. That's under the best of conditions. So people who think they're not capable of doing these things when times get really tough don't understand themselves, they don't understand basic human psychology, or they've never been in a situation that's so desperate that it would ever warrant the thought of doing something like this. But I guarantee you, when you or your family starts getting hungry, not only is your brain not going to be working in the same way, and this is scientifically proven, that when you're starving, and I've done in-depth videos on hunger, starvation, what happens when you starve to your mind. I've done videos on cannibalism. And basically what happens is you become less cognitively capable of resisting the urges to do certain things. So it's not even that, your morals are going to be corrupted, is that your physiology and your ability to think is going to be compromised, and you are likely going to do things that you thought you never would do. But let's take a deep dive into this. Let's see what people's best intentions are. And for some of them, their worst intentions. Some people have absolutely no bones about telling you all the things they would do when the crap hit the fan. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. I have the skills and experience not to harm or steal, plus the peacekeeper morality. Okay, 19 likes. I think in most conditions, you're probably right. I think in most cases, you won't have to do that. And there's going to be some people, if they have the skills to survive, they're not going to have to ever look to their fellow person or their ex as being a source of protein. But you also need to understand that most people don't know how to hunt, and the animals are much easier to catch than the humans. It sounds bad to say that, but there's 7 billion people and there ain't 7 billion deer, and the people are sadly much easier to catch than the deer. So this is why I've speculated in my videos on cannibalism that not only is cannibalism going to be a thing, it's going to be a very popular thing, because we are so conditioned to eating meat in our society that it wouldn't take a huge psychological leap to get there. I know this is kind of a grotesque subject matter, but it's something we need to consider, right? If we're talking about full-blown SHTF, you know, long-term, the crops aren't growing, the world is dying around us type thing. In that situation, I think there'd be more of that than you would suspect. It's best to start off with really good intentions, because at least if you're starting off with good intentions, you're probably less likely to, or, you know, there's going to be a greater delay in going down the slippery slope of Wendigo psychosis. So I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt. Ingrained in the human DNA is the will to survive. You know, and that's being honest. There's a broad spectrum of situations also. There could be a situation where there's an innocent family who's just like your own, who has something, and you have to hurt one of their family members in order to get something. Or there's a situation where, you know, there's a bunch of bad people who, you know, have been doing bad things and stealing and raping and pillaging other people, and you have to hurt them to get something. So some situations may be more ethically acceptable than others. Drop Forge Survival, my man, go check out Drop Forge Survival's channel. He's been doing a lot of great survival challenges lately. All right, I got cut off there, so let's continue. I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt. I will be honest, most will choose they would steal but never harm a soul. But, ... things become dire and push comes to shove, with your back against the wall and your family's death as the alternative. It'll burn like hellfire within, but you would and will do what is necessary to keep you and your family alive. That's probably the most honest answer a person could ever give. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. The Lord will provide, hunt, trap, fish, and forage. Yeah, if you're somebody who is accustomed to living in the wilderness and is adapted to that lifestyle, then you have a chance without ever having to, you know, venture in to the city to harm people or to where there are people to get stuff. You fear starving, but you don't fear God. Watching and his day judgment, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's not go there. I would steal but avoid inflicting any casualties. I've never seen myself or family going hungry. Hard to say what I or others would do to feed a family member like children. So, guy's starting out with the best intentions, but acknowledges that, you know, there's a side of him that may be pushed to that edge at some point. Taryn Indel says, I would steal but avoid inflicting any casualties. There is a difference between salvaging and stealing raiding. Salvage is well within my area of comfort. Beyond that, and I get uncomfortable. Well, right now, while you are comfortable, it's uncomfortable to think about that. But once again, you know, reality may creep up on you, and it's a gradual thing. It's not going to be like overnight you're stealing, looting, and pillaging, but it's something which, you know, if you were to survive long enough, you would probably turn into a different person, a different animal. And that's just the sad reality of it is those who survive are probably going to be the people with the least amount of empathy. And that's a sad thing to think about, that you're going to live in a world of potential psychopaths. But on the flip side of that, there's also the community aspect. And communities are going to be able to resist that sort of tyranny. So if you have a large enough group of people who all share a certain creed, or they share a certain set of rules that govern how they interact, then that in itself would be protection against even large gangs of people who would put their own needs before yours. You don't have to go down this slippery slope if you have good human organization and of course you have resources, but those communities are only bonded insofar as there's resources to go around. So long as everybody's reasonably well fed, everybody gets along, you can have some social cohesion. But once that starts to break down, and once the rations run out, I'm sure you could probably push it pretty far with minimal rations. Probably even, I would say you could probably get down to people only being dispensed a quarter of their dietary needs a day before you really started to see some uprising. Especially if you had a tight-knit religious bond, or something that bonded that community together, which was greater than themselves. That could potentially keep the threat of people doing crazy things away. I mean, the Native Americans used folklore to discourage people from doing certain things in times of great desperation. Like the Wendigo, Native Americans discouraged people from consuming one another in times of great famine by creating this myth of the Wendigo, the guy who had an insatiable hunger if you ever chose to go that route. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. I'm just being honest. I would do everything I could to avoid doing harm, but I'm not going to say if things got bad enough that I wouldn't do things that might get a little dark. It's easy to say I would never do that now while things are good, but can you honestly say you would never steal, cheat, or kill while watching your children starve? Exactly. Sad but true. It's just human nature, right? I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. Cannibalism is the way. All right, some memery there. That's good. We inject a little bit of humor into this discussion. I would eat my pets. I have livestock, sheep, chicken, and ducks. We also have garden greenhouses and fish. It's funny how more people would eat their ex than their pets. That's kind of amusing. But yeah, what is a pet? It starts to constitute that, right? Because we eat a variety of different species. Some of them rank higher in the sentience scale than others. For instance, most people would think that a dog is more sentient than a cow. Even though some of these animals might even be more intelligent than dogs, scientifically speaking. Like pigs. Aren't pigs the most intelligent or something like that? I don't know. But so the fact is, it's very subjective, right? What is a pet? A pet rabbit. People eat rabbits all the time. There's different degrees of pet. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. I'm a prepper and have no need to steal, only to prep my property if I have to. Absolutely. If you are a prepper, we make these provisions so that we don't ever have to do these things. And in 99% of situations, unless we're talking about a full-blown end of the world as we know it, the crops don't grow anymore and everybody's, the world is just dying around us and there's no hope for humanity, that's when the worst of humanity is going to come out. But I also believe it's when the best of humanity is going to come out as well. But yes, if you have a lengthy stockpile of goods and resources, that's going to postpone these decisions from ever having to be made. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. If I haven't already prepared for me and my family by stocking up on supplies and having the necessity to grow my own food, or I can't hunt with my firearms, fish, or gather fruits, berries, and nuts, then I don't deserve to survive. The only time you should harm anyone is when you're defending yourself and your family, and being a thief was a double negative during SHTF because people would have very little, if any. This is like the longest run-on sentence in the history of the planet Earth. There's a bit of contradiction to what you're saying, because you're saying that you don't deserve to survive if you don't know these primitive skills. So you're basically saying that 95% of the world doesn't deserve to survive because they don't have hunting and gathering capabilities. But then you go on to say that nobody deserves to die. So there's a bit of a contradiction there. I'm not trying to be, overly critical of your comment, but I would encourage you to please use commas and periods because it makes it easier for me to read these things. Regardless, you got 7 likes on your comment, so you get another one from me. There you go. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. We are blessed to be prepared in all aspects better than most. We will not steal or harm anyone in an attempt to survive. However, if someone attempts to steal from us or cause us any harm to us, we will have no mercy on them. They will be turned into food for our pets. You can see how your second position could, at some point down the line, become, what you say you're not going to become. Because it might start off as, if somebody ever tries to harm us, we will kill them. But then you might get more proactive in that. Well, we better, take these people out. And this is what happened to a lot of characters in The Walking Dead. And that tends to be the character development in most post-apocalyptic fiction, is that a person starts off morally well-meaning, not wanting to hurt anybody. But by the end of it all, they're just, killing people who may become a problem because they know enough to know that, they potentially will become a problem. It's not a huge leap from that point to just killing people for their stuff. Sad to say. And I think that the more honest you are with yourself, the less likely you are to go down that road. I think that if you deny that, then you are more likely to make that transition without even realizing it, into that very scary, evil person. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. I'm not sure what I would be willing to do, but just reading these comments should give you more than enough reasons as to why you should prep. Yeah, good point. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. I think thievery, people fighting over dwindling resources, and cannibalism will be inevitable. However, logic dictates that all the assholes, shitters, and dildo-shaped butt clowns will get killed and eaten first. Okay, thank you for single-handedly demonetizing this video, but it was a good laugh for someone somewhere. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. Eternity means more to me than this life. Thou shalt not steal. Really? Ever? Even to survive? That's a big debate unto itself. I think George Carlin, was it George Carlin or somebody made fun of the inconsistency of the Ten Commandments, how you have like thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not steal in the same, level of severity. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. It's what history says will happen. We are hardwired to survive. History does show some pretty crazy things. There was a story in the Ukrainian famine, the Holodomor, where a Ukrainian man and woman, they took the lives of one of their children to feed the other two. And there was even a case where, man and woman ate their children. So there's some pretty crazy stuff that has happened in times of great famine. During the communist reign of those times, a lot of crazy stuff happened. Life was very expendable, or so it seemed back then. I would eat my neighbor, blah, blah, blah. I would like to think that I will go no further as eating my pets, but history shows us that we will fall back to cannibalism in hard times. Just look at the Russian famine of 1921. I wouldn't steal or harm from anyone ever. In a severe SHTF situation, stealing someone's food could be the same as murder if those people starve to death, or if you steal their clothes and they freeze to death. In these situations, people will use deadly force to protect their property and will be justified. Unlike today, where the law frowns upon it, they will do it because they will lose their preps and it will be a death sentence. Defending your property will equally be defending your life. So if you are a thief, you may as well be a murderer. There will be no such thing as stealing but not inflicting casualties. That said, I wouldn't hesitate to harm someone in self-defense. So, it's amazing how he just bridged the two things I just talked about. So how theft is, in times of great desperation, murder. That's interesting. Thanks for that comment. That comment gets the golden buzzer. Excellent. I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt. The best option isn't on here. To properly prepare so stealing isn't necessary. But you can only prepare so much. I mean, we're talking about a situation where maybe you lose your preps. Maybe your house burns down. Maybe you're chased out of your house by vandals and you're left to struggle by yourself on the road. There's situations when your preps may either run out or you may be separated from them. And in those conditions, what are you going to do? I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt. I don't know that anyone who answers else wise exactly knows the severity of a real SHTF and needing to feed you and protect your family. If you think you can go without causing harm to others, you and your family will be the ones who are harmed by those willing to do anything to feed their families. Nothing is harder to bear than watching those you love suffer. Makes an interesting point here about projecting our own capabilities onto others. So if you don't think that you could ever, or that people in general should ever go to that extent, then you might be blindsided by somebody who is willing to go the distance and do whatever they have to do to survive, even at your expense. Interesting point. I'll give that one a heart also. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. It's not possible to take food out of other people's mouths and also avoid inflicting casualties. So that comment again, I'll give that one a thumbs up. I would eat my pets. I feed the birds, so they're here all the time. My food will come to me. Yeah, if you got birds, you might as well have chickens, I guess. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. Only the crazy strong survive. Those that are never seen or felt death know nothing of life's costs. Interesting. Another wise words. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. I'm dying old. He's got some like some, I don't know, troll meme face as an avatar. Shitpost bot. Okay. I would eat my neighbor or my ex. We will survive at any cost. Neighbor, not the ex. That bitch nasty and diseased now. Damn, boy. You mad. Avoid inflicting casualties means less chance of becoming a casualty. That's true. And a lot of people are going to get wiped. What do they say? Buttholes get wiped. A-holes get wiped. So, you know, if you're running around doing that kind of stuff, chances are you ain't going to last long, or you're going to get really good at it and become really tough and really become a force to be reckoned with. I would love to read more of these, but I just don't have the time. Let's read a couple more. Because there's so much wisdom and knowledge, as much as there is buffoonery in here. I would steal even if it meant someone else gets hurt. Anyone that says they wouldn't cause any harm to anybody is full of you know what. If there's a group trying to take what's yours and you take them out first, don't tell me you're not going to take their stuff. Groups that are going to have supplies and ones that don't will clash. Yeah, so preemptive thievery in a way. You know, somebody tries to take your stuff, you defend yourself, and then inevitably end up taking their stuff. So, good point. Good point. I would eat my neighbor or my ex, but definitely not my pets. Let's be honest here. Neighbors would be a little greasy and my ex would taste like trash. Either way, I'm living over them. You know, we do seem to personify animals more than people. We almost seem to humanize our pets nowadays more than people. Something to think about. I recall someone saying that honest people were the first to go during the Holodomor. Yeah, scary thought, isn't it? Things that I heard about the Holodomor, the Ukrainian famine, is that people would be selling meat pies, and that it was a criminal offense. They had to, you know, start cracking down on it, because people would be selling mystery meat pies, or they'd be mixing different types of meat, human meat, in with other types of meat. And like I say, it's repulsive to think about that, but it's just a grim reality when there's nothing and you're in the, you know, the cold ass Ukraine and there's no grain, or the grain is there and Stalin or whoever won't let you have it, then shit's gonna hit the fan, that's for sure. I wouldn't steal or harm anyone ever. Karma is a biatch, especially when the chips are down and stuff has hit the fan. We might have to work harder, tighten our belts to get by, but stealing and raw can get you killed. It's better to take the extra steps around the problem. You know what? Karma, the longer I live, the more I believe in karma, because it's true. It always seems to find you somehow. If you do something bad, you know, it's like the karma payment plan, as I've heard it called. You know, everybody has a karma credit. You want to keep it at 0. So, or, you know, you want to get, I guess, in the positive, but what you don't want to do is be in the negative. You don't want to have done more shitty things than you've had time to repent or make up for, because that means something's coming to you down the road in some way, shape, or form. But, you know, that's not physically factual, but that's just a belief of mine. Okay, so let's read one more comment and we're going to wrap this up. You can go and read the rest of the comments. There's a lot here because, like I say, there was 1,800 votes and 230 comments. I believe we are ultimately our own judge. We judge ourselves in our mind's eye, and in time, if we go further, our worthiness to live and survive will be diminished in that mind's eye, diminished to the point that we will eventually wonder why we even want to strive to keep our corrupt and unworthy butts alive. One could make the case that stealing another man's food will kill him, also only more slowly. However, where there is life, there is hope, and he at least has a chance to recoup what he has lost. My justification for stealing from him in the first place is that my loyalty and my first obligation is that to my family and not to some stranger's family on an equal basis. If you start doing these things, you might come to view yourself in a pretty negative light and possibly just take your own life at some point, you know, if your conscience gets the best of you. But I also think that some of that can get shut off. I think if you don't have a time to rest and reflect, you're probably better off, because if you had to go and do all these crazy things to survive and you live through it, and let's say society became stable and peaceful once again, you'd have to live with that for the rest of your life. And I think it's only when you take a break from the running and scavenging and surviving and doing whatever it takes to survive that your conscience has the opportunity to really creep into your thoughts and make you feel like a piece of shit. And that's when you get the post-traumatic stress disorder, like a lot of the soldiers have experienced, who, you know, have been over there in survival mode, in just acting on impulse mode, and then they come back, they realize what they've seen, what's happened, and that's a traumatizing effect. So anyways, guys, thanks for all of the comments. I'm going to keep doing these polls, and, you know, if there's a poll that you would like me to do, put it in the comments of this video, and I'll take a look at whether or not I'm going to do it, and try to provide some responses, you know, ones which rank in terms of severity, because that was the problem with this poll, is that I didn't, that will I eat my pets thing wasn't really in line with the severity, but it made for some comical comments anyways. So I'll keep you posted on Marshall's status. Going to be doing and seeing a lot more of him this year. We got a lot of great things coming on the channel this year. I'm heading out to BC to hang out with Rod Giltaca for a bit of Civil Advantage. We're going to do some trainings, weapons training. Going to get my restricted license so I can have more options for firearms. What else are we going to do? We're going to do the dog training with Marshall, with a professional canine police dog trainer. We're going to be doing a week's worth of collaboration with Survival Lily this year. Going to be hanging out with City Prepping, the Urban Prepper. Hopefully going to do some comms stuff with Survival Tech Nord. That's been on my list for about 5 years now, and I want to do it. This is the year to do it. This is all about building skills. So time is running out, and we need to be at least familiar, maybe not proficient, but familiar with all the skill sets in order to survive long-term off-grid. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Canadian Prepper out. The best way to support this YouTube channel is to support yourself by gearing up through CanadianPreparedness.com or BugoutRoll.ca. Premium quality gear at the best possible price using the incredibly secure and easy to use Shopify platform. We offer free shipping to the United States for orders over $200 USD and free shipping to Canada over $75. So support the channel by supporting yourself.